Hello, everyone. So, in the past week, we've had four major terrorist security incidents in the United States. The first one was a person in Virginia that the FBI raided, and they found a huge arsenal. And according to the FBI, is the largest cache of explosives that they've ever come across. This guy was evidently building pipe bombs and all sorts of explosives, and in the process, he also lost three fingers. And luckily, he was reported. The FBI raided his home and stopped him from causing mayhem down the road. So that's good work. The second incident was in Florida. So we've got this one guy that's driving down to Florida to target the American Israel Public Affairs Committee office down there, and he had evidently some anti-Semitic social media postings and whatnot. And the FBI was able to stop that one as well. The third incident was in Las Vegas, where a Cybertruck evidently blew up in front of the Trump building, and there's initial findings are that it may also be a terrorist incident because they found all sorts of gasoline and stuff inside an electric vehicle. Well, that makes no sense, but nonetheless. The fourth incident that we all have heard about happened in New Orleans, where this guy, Shamsuddin Jabbar, with an ISIS flag flying in the back of his truck, plows into a crowd on New Year's Eve and kills 15 people and injures 30. And in the process gets in a gunfight. He's killed on the scene, and a couple of police officers get wounded. But last I heard is that they're recovering. Nonetheless, this is the issue that I have. First and foremost, here's a guy that's flying an ISIS flag on the back of his vehicle, and nobody had the gumption to notice that, or even if they did notice it, report it. And I understand free speech. I'm a big proponent of that. But there's some indicators and warnings that we have to be aware of. Without being paranoid, we have to be vigilant. You see something unusual, somebody flying an ISIS flag, you probably want to call the police department so they can stop the vehicle and have a conversation with the guy. And that didn't happen. And the second part of this whole thing is that when you have events of this nature where large crowds are going to form, these are prime targets for terrorists, because terrorists are trying to make a political statement by causing mass casualties. That's their aim. And we need to be smarter than the terrorists. Now, there have been several cases in the United States where people have used their vehicles and plowed into crowds. Now, what I've observed in my travels across the world is, in many countries, they cordon off areas where big crowds are going to form, and they stop any vehicle from coming in. A good example is the UAE. New Year's Eve in Dubai, 2-3 million people gather around the Burj Khalifa, and the government shuts down all the roads. They start at 4 p.m. and slowly they're starting to narrow, that cordon all the way around the Burj Khalifa. No vehicles are allowed. You use public transportation to get to the venue. And so what this does is it just negates, one form of a hazard, of a risk that some crazy nut job or a drunk is going to plow into, a bunch of people who are celebrating New Year's Eve. And we need to seriously start thinking about doing this in the United States. Now, events every weekend that we have, they're pretty good about it because they've got security out there. They're checking everybody's bags coming into the venue. It's a closed venue. The vehicles are outside in the parking lot, right? But when you have open events, especially with big crowds forming, we need to cordon off streets, quite simply, and make sure that no vehicles can get in there, unauthorized vehicles, to harm anybody and be used as a terrorist weapon. So I think these things are very critical. The third part is, we spend about $1 trillion a year on the most, the best trained military, the most sophisticated, the best equipment, and the best troops. And I've said that before. We've got 750 to 800 bases all the way around the world. We've got F-35s, F-22s, and all sorts of capabilities. But the issue is this. All the F-35s that we have could not have stopped the New Orleans terrorist attack. And the reason being is because our military capabilities are at one end of the spectrum, and these terrorists are operating at the other end of the spectrum. So we got to get smarter than them, right? And the way we get smarter than them is just like during the Cold War. I remember this as a young child. You know, in our school, we would have these nuclear bomb drills where we'd all have to, sit underneath the desks. We were led to believe that would protect us from a nuclear blast. Come to find out, it probably wouldn't. Then every public building had all sorts of bunkers, where food and water was staged for the public to be able to go and find safety. So the point being is, using those lessons, we need to educate our public about some of the threats that we have out there. I had put a social media post, and a gentleman responded saying that he wouldn't have recognized the ISIS flag. He doesn't know what one looks like. And, that's understandable. But my first thought was, good God, man. 18 plus years we've been fighting these guys, and we don't know what their flag looks like. Well, that's our fault, right? Because we should educate the public. And the way we do that is, instead of talking about various genders and how many genders there are, in schools and stuff, let's first talk about public safety and what happens if a school gets attacked. What happens when you go to a venue? What should you be looking out for? Without making people paranoid, we can make them vigilant. And we need to make sure that, the individual citizen's responsibility is to get their head out of their phone and look around, often and see what's going on. And all I see is people just walking down the street, just, looking in their phones without even looking up. And it blows my mind. So, it's an individual responsibility also to be able to realize what the threats are and report them. If you see something, say something, you may save a life. It's really that simple. The threat is real. It's not going to stop. It's going to continue. And the big difference is that, all four of these incidents were homegrown. Especially in the case of New Orleans, the person was born in the United States, served in the Army for 13 plus years, and got radicalized somehow or the other. Whatever his issues were. Unfortunately, we won't find out because, he was killed. But the other three individuals are also Americans. And so, although there is a threat, a foreign threat to the United States, that obviously our military and other organizations are handling, the threat is internal now. And the best way to handle it is to have a vigilant public, that is alert, that knows about the threat, and when it sees something, it says something to save a life. It's we got some work to do. That's all I got. Stay rugged. Khan out.